Okay, now we're going to go through all the screens of the vertical feeding system, the VFS 1000. So when it boots up, you have the ability to set the counter. You could set a quantity of whatever quantity you want to feed. Once you do that, you can press start and it'll feed that quantity. And in about 5 seconds, it'll time out and we'll stop. So there's other screens I want to go into. The one-shot screen, that's where you can feed one bag. So if I press feed one bag, it'll do just that. It'll feed one bag. Then I can go back to the run screen. And from there I could load a new item. So when you load a new item, you have different items you can choose from. Bag 1, bag 2, bag 3, for instance. And you could edit any one of these recipes by pressing edit recipe. If you press edit recipe, now it allows you to change the name, or I don't believe you can change the description. And you could also change the cycle delay. That's the time between feeding one item and the next. So the more delay, the more time between feeding of the bags. When you're done, you have to press save. So if you change the settings, for instance, if I want to change this to 0.2 seconds, I hit save and then load. Now it's loaded bag 1 with a delay of 0.2 seconds. If I want to reload the conveyor, what that does is it moves the suction cups up and stops the conveyor from running and allows you to do a setup to change over from one bag size to the other. And in that mode, the only two buttons you can press are rake table L, which moves the pusher or the rake table in and out so that you can adjust it and set it up properly for the bag size. Then you can go back to the run screen. If you press reset placer, that's what it'll do. It'll do a reset, force reset of all the outputs, and then go back to the run screen. If I press settings now, you have to press here to enter a password or go back to the run screen. So if you press here to enter a password, the password's currently 0 and can be changed. And then you press enter. And here you have the ability to change user options, change recipes, set up recipes, look at the inputs to the PLC, force the outputs, adjust timers of the system, and change that password. So first, let's look at user options. And here, for instance, there's a buzzer that can be turned on or off. So if you don't want the buzzer, it's off. If you want the buzzer to activate, it's on. There's other options with the system that could be turned on or off. In this case, we're running a labeler and we're going to use the alarm buzzer. But everything else is either turned off or set to no. You could set the endless to yes, and now it'll run in endless mode. It'll keep running until it runs out of bags. You press settings to go back. Recipe setup. I could create a new recipe or delete a recipe. So let's say I want to create a new recipe. I give that recipe a description. So bag 4, for instance. And I hit enter. And then I can set the delay at half a second, and then I hit save. So now that recipe is being saved. If I load that recipe, it now loaded the bag 4 recipe for operation. If I want to delete a recipe, I can go to the recipe and edit recipe. Oh no. So it kicked me out of settings. Recipe setup, delete recipe. I can select a recipe, for instance, bag 4, and hit delete recipe. Now that recipe's been deleted. Now you only have bag 1, 2, and 3 recipe. Go back to settings. We go to inputs. The inputs show me the status of sensors and switches. So it's just a screen that allows me to look at the status of a switch or sensor. For instance, there's a bag sensor that I'm blocking and unblocking, so you can see the status go from off to on to off to on. So any sensor that we want to check the input of, we can do that from this screen. Force outputs. This is where I can force the output of the solenoids or the conveyors. And if I want to do that, like for instance, I want to turn on conveyor 2, I could just press this blue conveyor and you see the switch turns from off to on, showing me that it's running. If I want to turn the vacuum on or off. If I want to push the table out, I can turn it on and off. Alarm light, alarm buzzer, on, off. Timers. There are various timers for the system. Most of these timers do not get used. Some are used. These are set at the factory, and you shouldn't have to mess with these timers. But you have the vacuum on delay, a vacuum off delay. You have vacuum anti-chatter. You have table out delay. You have reject on delay. Conveyor 1 off delay, conveyor 1 runtime. Conveyor 2 off delay. So right now, conveyor 2, which is the labeler conveyor, is set to run for another 9 seconds before it stops. So at the end of a run, conveyor 2, with the labeling conveyor, will run for 9 seconds until all the product's cleared from that conveyor and then stop. No bag timeout. If we don't detect the bag, the suction cups go up to get a bag and we don't detect the bag, then after 5 seconds, it'll time out and let you know there's something wrong. Count done alarm. There's an alarm that comes on for 1 second at the end of the count. So once we reach the maximum count that we set, an alarm will alert the operator to let them know the job's done. So consecutive rejects, that's only used if you're using a camera or vision system and you're looking at the rejects from that system. And if we had 3 rejects in a row, for instance, then we could stop the system. So these are all timers to change any of these times. For instance, conveyor 2 off delay. If I press that 9 and I want to change it to, for instance, 10, I just enter 10.00 and hit enter. And now it's 10 seconds. If I want to change it to 9 seconds again, I press on the 10 and now enter 0900 and hit enter. And now it's set for 9 seconds. Change password is just that. You enter the new password or you press cancel. Then we can go back to the run screen. So those are all the screens and all the settings. Thank you.